Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know from experience that this is my series that I call Back to Basics, and it's how I'm going to be completing my deep dive year into the Thoth system. Yes, the Thoth system. The system created by Lady Frida Harris and Harris-Crowley. And I call it my Back to Basics series within a series because you probably already know I have limited myself. I've restrained myself to using only 3 tarot cards and 2 oracle cards. And I think it's really been helping me. I hope it's been a benefit to you as well. And if it has been a benefit to you, thank you. Thank you in advance for doing those things like hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, it helps get the channel out in front of the eyes of other people who might also be looking for this channel. So you're helping them as well as the entire community. So thank you. And friends, I have a spread already laid out. If you've been here before, you know what we're doing. Before I get into the spread, I'd like to focus our attention. I'd like us to bring our minds towards a specific topic. You know that's how I like to begin, right? And living the intentional life, we know that being open to change is of great benefit to us. Why is that? Well, living an intentional life is living a life of evolution. For us to have and become and do and experience the things we want to have, do, become, and experience, it's a life and a process of evolution. We become the people who are ready to have those experiences, to do those things, right? So to be able to evolve, we necessarily want to be open to change. Change is evolution. Evolution is change. And I know, of course, it's wonderful to feel like we're in our comfort zone, doing the things that we know how to do and we feel happy doing, and all of those wonderful things. Those are wonderful, wonderful things. But if we are stubbornly staying within our comfort zone, then that is a strong sign of resistance. And resistance, we all know, is a signal that we are pinching ourselves off from having the full access to our powerful current of intention. So being open to change is being open to also intention, right? And many of us still feel very, very comfortable in what we call our comfort zone, doing the familiar things. Now, yes, I know there are also people who are very uncomfortable doing the same old things, right? There are some people who get frustrated or irritated when there isn't any change. They go out and seek change. I'm not exactly one of those people, really, but I know those people, and they're wonderful people. They're creative people. They are exciting people to be around. However, sometimes that is also a sign of resistance. Not always, but sometimes. If we are resistant to doing the same thing, if we are resistant to having a similar experience more than once, if we are resistant to keeping a routine, to following the same path, we're also cutting ourselves off, well, at least pinching ourselves off from our full access to the power of intention. Yeah? When we leave behind things when they are underdeveloped, when we feel like we've been doing it for too long, when we leave behind things and jump into the new things or desperately seek out new experiences because we've been doing the same thing for a while and we're starting to get bored, those are indications of resistance. That's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about the desperate need to change. We're talking about being open to change. It's a very different experience. Being comfortable and happy where we are, and yet being open to change. You can understand that, right? That's what living the intentional life is. That's what being open to the power of intention feels like. Being open to change. And that's where I think this week's tarot spread and oracle spread, we got 2 oracle cards there too, tarot and oracle spread, is pointing towards. And I think that was the title I have chosen for this video. I say was because by the time you see this, I will have already chosen it. Yeah? Open to change. Let's see if you agree with my interpretation and my selection of a title. So, what will we do now? We're going to look at the spread. First, I'll show you the whole spread in one piece, and just in case you are new here, I'll show you what the pieces are, very rudimentarily, in a very rudimentary way, and then we'll break the spread into its 2 large chunks and read those chunks together. Are you all ready? Here's the spread. If you've been following along with this series, you probably recognize these decks. Well, I'm sure you recognize the Oracle deck because I may be resistant to leaving this deck behind at this point. Maybe not a good thing. But when we leave the deep dive into the Thoth system, I'll probably be switching out Oracle decks a little bit more frequently. Again, however, the Oracle deck, I'm sure you know, those 2 cards at the bottom. But first let's talk about the 3 cards at the top, because those are the core of this spread, right? And do you recognize the deck? I've used it before. It's called the Surfer's Paradise Tarot. It's a strongly Thoth-based deck, and if you're interested in it and the guidebook, I highly recommend getting both of them together. I'll have a link in the description box below. Yeah, it's a beautiful deck. The guidebook is very poetic. If you're looking for a guidebook that just gives the image and maybe a brief description and then meanings, this is not the book for you. This book requires settling into the poetry of reading a Thoth deck. And I think it's a beautiful challenge, especially I think for an intermediate at least reader. Yeah? And maybe a beginner could, who has a poetic soul might get into the book as well. But it is a beautiful book, and it's a beautiful deck. So we had 3 cards from that deck. Those 3 cards from left to right are in what we call a positional spread. Yeah, each card responds to either a question or a prompt. And the prompts for them from left to right are significance, the significant response to the question, which I ask every week. Actually, every time I lay out a spread, we begin with a question. And the question for this series has always been, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? So the significant answer to that question is the first card. The second card is a challenge. Now, either a positive challenge, something we're reaching for, something we're striving for, or a more negative challenge, an obstruction, or something that we have to overcome. The third card is advice. It's plain and simple. And speaking of advice, the 2 oracle cards below can either be advice, an expansion of the advice from the tarot deck, or it can be a reiteration of the message from the 3 cards above, or it can be an additional layer of meaning to the 3 cards above. So we'll see which direction these 2 cards are pointing us towards after we read the 3 cards above. So, and just in case you don't know, I forgot to mention it, the 2 cards from the Oracle deck are from a deck called the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. It's an astrologically based tarot oracle deck, and it is wonderful, especially if you want to boost up your astrological associations and readings within your tarot practice. So it's a wonderful deck. There will be a link to that deck as well below. Are you all ready? So friends, we're going to go into the tarot spread. Here are the 3 cards again, just for a refresher right now. The 3 cards you saw from left to right were the Hierophant, the Art card, and the 4 of Wands, right? Now, do you know the Thoth deck? And when I say the Thoth deck, I'm speaking specifically of the deck created by Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. Do you know that deck? Do you see that these images are very different from Lady Frida Harris's images? However, do you also see the strong resonance between these images and the art drawn by Lady Frida Harris? I hope you do, because there is a very strong resonance between this deck and a Thoth deck. We've got the astrology, in addition to the artwork, we also have things like the astrological associations, we also have the Hebrew letters, we also have the titles. Now, some of the titles are a little bit different for the minor arcana from what I recall, but this one is exactly the same. So this is really a very strongly, firmly Thoth-based deck. And the first card, again, was the Hierophant. A fabulous card. It's maybe even a little bit more difficult to see everything that's there than it is in Lady Frida Harris's artwork, and that's a stretch because Lady Frida Harris's artwork is dense. And this card is even a bit more dense, I think. What do we see? We see the large Hierophant at the top within what looks like what is a pentagram, right? We see 2 ladies at opposite ends of the pentagram, right? Let's see, where are they? Here and here, 2 ladies. We see a child down here, which in Lady Frida Harris's artwork is down at the center of this card. No, it's large on this card. We have an addition of the Holy Spirit coming from above, which is interesting. That's what I see here. Maybe you see something else. Could be a Venus association of the dove. Why? Because the Hierophant is associated with Taurus, and Taurus is the domicile of Venus. So having a Venus symbol here is apropos. And the child down there is a recognition, an image of Horus. And we'll get to why Horus is important in this card in just a little bit. But we also have the 4, whatever you want to call them. If you want to call them the 4 winds, you want to call them the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, you want to call them the 4 cherubim, you want to call them the 4 books of the gospel. Pick any of those or all of those if you choose. But yeah, we got the 4 figures, right? We've got the human face, we've got the eagle, we've got the lion, and the bull, which can be all of those things, right? And we also have the Hebrew letter Vav, which is the 3rd letter in the divine tetragram of Yod He Vav He, right? It's the 2nd masculine letter of the tetragram. And Vav, what is that? Vav can be a hook or a spear. It kind of looks like a big line, which reminds us of a spear, I guess. An older image for, or an older idea behind the letter Vav is also a tent peg, something that we use to fix something down, to hold something in place, right? A tent peg. So it can be used to secure or add something, or also hook something in or pierce things. Now, because we have Vav, we also have the rune Kanaz, which kind of looks like a greater than symbol, or less than symbol, depending on which direction you're looking at it. And Kanaz is a rune for visions, for revelation and inspiration and wisdom. All wonderful characteristics for the Hierophant, I believe. Also enthusiasm. Yeah, there's an enthusiasm here behind Taurus. Taurans also love doing what they love doing, right? There's passion. Taurans love the sensual nature of life. There's a passion there too. Also willpower, which can also translate into stubbornness in an extreme, of course. Creativity and love. Yeah, all aspects of Venus. So Kanaz, I think, is a wonderful associated rune to this card as well, being Taurus, the domicile of Venus. And what does Crowley point to? Crowley points to utter changes of belief in this card, because we're looking at the baby Horus. It's the new eon coming in. It's the preparation for the new eon. Now, we actually have the Eon card later on in the Major Arcana, which would normally be called the Hierophant, or not the Hierophant. What am I saying? The Judgment card. The Judgment card number 20 in the Major Arcana, which Crowley calls Eon. It's the call to the new life, to making a choice to the new thing. Here, it's the changing point for him from a fixed belief to detachment from belief. Now, it's the shift to the new eon of Horus. It could be teaching. Yeah, Hierophants are great teachers. It's patience. Taurans are patient, as long as they're not nudged too hard from outside. They are patient with doing what they want to do at their own pace. It's also endurance, which is a Tauran thing. So long-term planning. Long-term planning as we transition into a new age. In addition to rebelling against the status quo. So we are ready to cut ourselves off from the past, to recognize the past is no longer serving us, and we plan ahead for our new future. We're open, and we feel the truth of the now. Instead of holding on to the truths of the past, we feel the truth of the now. We listen, and we're receptive. We breathe in and we assimilate that which we are becoming and that which we are experiencing as we listen, and we plan ahead, and we're patient, and we move into our new age as we leave the past behind. And we're doing that all with the characteristics of Venus, of creativity, of love. Now we love that which is coming and is that which is becoming. It's not like the Aquarian version, which we're going to get to later on. Yeah, it's not the Aquarian version of radical change for the sake of radical change, for the sake of moving into the future. This is a an open transition rather than an active dashing towards the new. Does that make sense? And it's at the beginning of the zodiacal year, right? Which is interesting because the sign before Taurus is Aries, and we're going to get Aries in just a moment. And there's a lot of Venus in this spread. Just prick up your ears. Every time you hear Venus, go, yes, Venus is important in this coming week. So, Venus and Taurus, Hierophant, which gives us fixed earth, right? Fixed earth, which is interesting. There's a fixed earthness here within that transition into the new eon. A fixedness in addition to, there's a meaning here of mutability in the as envisioned by Harris-Crowley, and yet it's associated with a fixed earth sign, which is interesting. So it's not a dashing forward, which could be more cardinal. This is a moving forward with what we have now, appreciating the now as we plan ahead for the future and we leave the past behind. That makes sense, I believe, doesn't it? And the next card is what? It's the art card, which is a beautiful card here. We see the joining here, right? We see the joining of the flow of water. I don't know if you can see the figure here, which would very clearly in the artwork drawn by Lady Frida Harris be the androgyne, right? The male and the female merged together. The red king and the white queen merged together. What we have here, we have a figure. The body looks very female to me. But there are two heads which seem to be joined together. It's not joined as clearly to me as Lady Frida Harris's work, but it's still there. Yeah? Instead of having the white lion and the red eagle in the art card, as is in Lady Frida Harris's work, here we have a white lion with red eagle wings. They're merged together here, which is an interesting choice. A significant and I believe meaningful choice. Now we've got what looks like a rainbow coming together. We've got the red and the blue, the two sides of the spectrum coming together in that cauldron or the vessel in front of the central figure of the art card. It's a lovely piece of work, and it gives us a lot of the significant symbolic images that we look for in an art card, I believe, in a very different way. Now, we see water and fire. Do you see the fire at the bottom? And water, of course, coming down from below. It's coming down from above. Water from above, fire from below. Very interesting card. And you see that the art card is associated with Sagittarius, a fire sign, right? Which is the domicile of Jupiter, from which we get mutable fire's vital attributes entering our reading, entering our natal charts. So we've gone from fixed earth into the challenge of mutable fire, which is fire cleaning up and moving on into a new adventure. And that new adventure is indicated in the Hierophant card, of course. The new eon. And while the Hierophant connects Chokmah and Chesed in the Tree of Life, the art card connects Tiphereth and Yesod. So the Hierophant connected Chokmah and Chesed, which are both on the father pillar. That's our wisdom and our loving kindness. This one connects our beauty and the heart of the Tree of Life with our foundation, getting ready to leap into manifestation with Tiphereth and Yesod. So that's interesting. The challenge is to get ready to do the manifestation thing here, right? What else do we have? We have the Hebrew letter Samek, which looks like a circle. It looks like a ring. So we have cycles. We have even marriage can sometimes be indicated with Samek. But Samek is a support or a prop, something that props another thing up. Yeah? It's something to lean on. It could also be to fish with something, which is interesting because we have the hook with Vav in the Hierophant. Here we've got maybe fishing. But it's really something to uphold and support other things. And again, the ring. The ring of Samek also reminds us of the Ouroboros, right? The snake eating its own tail, which gives us the idea of cycles and eternity even. That eternal movement through time and space, not repeating the same thing over, but more like in a spiral, right? So we've got all of those associations in addition to the rune argiz, which kind of looks like a Y with an additional spike. Well, you might think of it as a trident maybe, or a Y that's shaped like a trident. I don't know. Anyways, it's argiz, which is protection, but also openness and happiness and our life force, which are wonderful things for a Sagittarian, I believe. The one who wants to go out and move ahead of the pack and be the forerunner and have the new experiences and enjoy playfully moving into the unknown. So that is our challenge, which is a great challenge to have coming from the Hierophant, right? Yeah, moving into the unknown. But we also have the ideas of alchemy here, synthesis. It's a process of bringing together the spectrum into the new thing. Also, the purification process of alchemy. So here, the challenge is the results of our planning and our accuracy. It's also our success after maneuvering through the process of transformation. So this card reminds us that there is no need to add or subtract anything from the here and now. Remember, the Hierophant wants to enjoy the now, wants to be open and feel the truth of the now. We don't need to add any. This card reminds us that we don't need to add anything to that truth or remove anything from that truth. We alchemize that truth. We distill the gold from that truth. And we make the most of what is. And in this card, every element can be assimilated with its equal and opposite. So fire and water, earth and air can all be assimilated here as we do the work of alchemy, as we consummate the royal marriage. The royal marriage which happened in the lover card, the lover's card, here is consummated, and the new is created. The gold is created. The spiritual gold, maybe even the cash money gold, but the spiritual gold here is made. Our transformation is accomplished, and that is our challenge as we move into the new eon. And we leave the past behind. Not in, we say rebellious, but not in aggressive, attacking, die kind of rebellion, but a rebellion as in the moving forward out of the conservative past. The rebellion into the new, right? And so our advice is what? A very interesting card. Another fire card, right? Art is Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. Here we have the Four of Wands, which is called completion. Now in the Harris-Crowley deck, Lady Frieda Harris draws this in a green background. We've got 4 wands there, and each wand has either an Aries head or a dove for Venus. Remember the dove for Venus here, right? Has a dove for Venus. Which is because this card is associated with Venus in Aries. Venus, remember? Venus. Now for me, Venus does not naturally happily belong in Aries. Now the planets that most happily belong in Aries, to me, are what? Would be, well, the fire planets. Well, the planets associated with the fire signs, right? Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter. Here we have Venus in Aries. So she's in the home of her partner, Mars. So there's a little bit of discomfort here, but she can figure her way around her partner's house, even though it's not her own, right? So people who have Venus in Aries are passionate and dynamic people, from what I'm told. So that is our advice. part of our advice, to be passionate and dynamic. In this card, what do we have? Instead of having those 4 wands forming a wheel, I didn't mention that, did I? Those wands kind of form a wheel. Here we got the 4 wands forming a pyramid with a burst of fire coming out of the peak of the pyramid. You see that, yes? And we have the combination of green and blue for a background, which is interesting. Yeah, and we also have pink inside of the triangle, the pyramid. The top is blue, the bottom is pink, reminding us a little bit of the alchemy of the art card, I believe, within that pyramid, right? So, another echo of alchemy, bringing things together from the challenge card, is in the advice card image. So this card is telling us what? Completion may satisfy, but nothing remains the same. Which is how I think we want to approach this transition indicated by the Hierophant. Yeah? We're not rebelling against the past. We're not rebelling against that which we have been through. We want to feel satisfied by our experiences up to now, as we know that things are not going to stay the same and we are open to change. Yeah, clear boundaries are still recommended. Being open to change doesn't mean that you'll let any Tom, Dick, or Harry into your sacred space. We may move forward with clear boundaries, and yet we can still be open. We can be open. We can have open, porous boundaries that we allow things that we don't want in our inner space to bounce off of, and we're open to the new coming in. That's understandable, isn't it? And here we have things like promises fulfilled. Our foundation, remember the foundation of Yesod. We have the foundation for our future progress already made. And that was from our past. That thing that we are moving on from has been our foundation. So that's a good thing. And yet we move on. We're open to change. We're open to change, progress, and transformation. All things that are significant aspects of living an intentional life. And so right now, we're at that milestone. Kind of like the Smith-Waite deck, right? The 4 of Wands is a card for milestones and celebration. We're at that milestone here. And the advice, I think, is to recognize that. And perhaps we don't have an intention to expand or modify the situation, but still it cannot remain the same forever. As we enjoy this milestone, maybe we don't... let's see. We don't want to change is not the correct way of translating this idea. Perhaps our desire is to quickly leap ahead. And yet, we are still open to the movement forward. Which is why the title of this video is not Hurry Up and Change, Damn It, but rather it's being open to change. Here we are, we're on our foundation, we're ready to move into the future, every moment is movement into the future, of course, but we're open to moving into the new eon, we're in our liminal space of transition into the next part of our evolution, right? The evolution. That was a weird thing, but evolution, yes? And we want to do that with the beauty, with the coherence, with the gregariousness of Venus, with the... I suppose you hear that horn. I don't know what's going on out there, but we want to accept what's going on. Okay? So friends, that's what the 3 cards are about. we're going to move into the next section. I'll show you the 2 cards from the Oracle deck, and hopefully this hunking will stop. Here we go. And yes, of course, the moment I turned off the video to move on to the next section, to prepare for the next section, the moment I turned it off, the honking stopped. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So, friends, you saw the 2 cards we have for either, again, advice, a recapitulation, or another layer of meaning or significance to the spread above. From left to right, we had restlessness, which could make sense already, right, for us, and then detachment. Those 2 kind of make sense, and I think this is advice / keep aware. Yeah, advice and be circumspect about these things. Why do I say that? Well, let's start off with the first card, which is, I mean, this deck is lovely. It's beautiful. The artwork is great. This is card number 1 because it is Aries. The planet is Mercury. Right? And so we see very largely drawn an image of Mercury dashing across the city. Now, the sun, can you see the sun? It's drawn as a compass, which shows creative possibilities and the directions to travel. It's just a lovely, lovely card. Now, and it's restlessness. Mercury is a restless planet. It dashes about, right? It goes retrograde at the drop of a hat. Okay, so that's moving right along. What is the significance of this card? Well, we may have too many irons in the fire. Yeah, we may be wasting mental and physical energy by trying to do too much, which is a symptom of restlessness, right? I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to could do that, and I also I could do that too. Oh, what about that? Instead of being one thing at a time and focused and patient and diligent, it's doing a mercurial thing, right? So, on the good side, we have Mercury being a good thinker and being articulate, right? The communicator, the messenger of the gods, Mercury. But even though we are good thinkers and we are good articulators, apparently I haven't moved into my mercurial phase yet, we are good at articulating, we could also become bored easily, which is why we got the title Restlessness. So, we want to take note of our thoughts and ideas because they could lead to future creative projects or a writing project even, or something, a new project of expression. So that's a good thing. Now, when we have these random thoughts, it might be good for us in this coming week to jot them down and see what becomes of them, what we can do with them. We want to do some research here too. Mercury likes to research. Do some detective work. Keep ourselves interested. Instead of being random and restless and I'll do that. Oh, but what about that? Oh, what about that? What kind of Gemini, right? We want to keep ourselves interested. We are assigned that task of keeping ourselves interested in one or a limited number of things. One thing or a limited number of things. So that we don't tire ourselves out and spend our energy recklessly. Not that this time is a particular time of fatigue, but still, even with a lot of energy, if it's not directed well, it becomes like water on sand. It just gets sucked into too many different things without any clear direction, right? Things to avoid. But things to remember are keep ourselves interested. Do some research. Find something that turns us on and keep ourselves turned on. Yeah? And the next card, lovely card, is detachment. The number is 11 because this is an Aquarian card. The planet is Venus. So we have Venus in Aquarius. Venus in Aquarius. And remember I mentioned also Aquarius, right? Aquarius might be a little bit of a cautionary signal for us in this coming week. The Aquarian moving into the new for the sake of moving into the new. Here we have a beautiful picture of an intelligent but detached person. Detachment, right? A detached person with their scalp marked with areas of intellect, not looking at the sea, which is a symbol of emotion. So the smart person with all of these signs of brainy intellect, which are wonderful, is not willing to or ready to or interested in facing their emotions. Which is interesting because Venus in Aquarius, Venus is all about emotion, right? Well, of all the planets, Venus is about emotion. Love and connectivity and relationship. This figure is not interested in that right now, which is a very Aquarian thing. Now, that doesn't mean that Aquarians are mean old Scrooges either. Aquarians are friendly with everyone, but not too friendly. Now, they have clear boundaries because Saturn is domiciled in Aquarius. Clear boundaries. They're not too emotionally engaged. They're friendly, they're cordial, they're genial, they're fun to be around, but they're not emotionally attached or engaged. And they need freedom. And if anybody around them gets too attached, they can get very irritated. So we want to be careful of that. Our reactivity to people, let me say that again, our reactivity to times when we feel like people are being a little bit clingy or jealous about us and our time. And we do need our freedom, but we don't want to be reactive to what's going on with other people, right? We want to be able to work well with others, especially on idealistic or avant-garde endeavors. The new that we're open to moving into. We want to be happy about and interested in working with other people, be in and with good relationships, even though we also know that we need our freedom at this moment. And we want to keep ourselves focused, right? And interested in what we're doing. As we move into this new period of life, our new eon, whatever that means for us individually. And that eon could be many things. It could be a new relationship. It could be it could be a new way of perceiving the world around us. It could be a new phase in our life, which might not even look all that different to people observing us from the outside, but inside it might feel like a very new, different, uncharted territory. Yeah? And so we want to be open for that. We don't want to do that in a resistant sense of, damn the past, I gotta get going forward. We want to be open to it, enjoying this milestone of where we are now, knowing that what we have lived, what we have experienced up until now, the old eon, is the foundation for the new. And celebrating that as we are also open to this movement into the new. Whatever that means for you or you or you or you or me. And we want to be careful of being triggered. We want to be careful of that sense of those triggers. Those triggers are an indication that we don't want to run away, right? We don't want to run away, and we don't want to be reactive. We just want to be aware of those triggers. And notice if the person actually is jealous or is clingy. Or if it's just our reaction to a feeling of, oh my God, they're going to trap me. Whether it's real or not. Yeah? Sometimes it's not real. Sometimes it is. Discernment is important. So, that's the reading for this week. It's a very, I think, optimistic reading and full of a lot of potential. Open to change, right? So friends, what do you think? Would you agree with this reading? If you do, let me know in the comments below. If you do not, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you want a direct reading from me, my email address is in the description box below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com, all one long string of letters. Shoot me an email, we'll get you a reading. Long, short, choose your system or I'll choose it for us. By video, by photo and audio, by photo and text, by Zoom maybe even, many possibilities. Okay? And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.